So there was an anti-war rally on Sunday, February 19th in Washington, D.C. And the truth is, I actually really wanted to go. And the reason for that is because people complain a lot about what's going on in the world and how terrible it is, but very few people are actually willing to do anything. So we were thinking about going, and I entertained the idea, and ultimately, because my nephew had a birthday party, we stayed home. It is a lame excuse. I'm not gonna lie about it. But then I started to look at footage of this rally, and I realized maybe it was a little bit better that I did not go. And I'm sorry to say that because I truly do believe that an anti war movement, along the lines of what the organizers wanted to do, which is basically bridge the gap between right and left, agree on one of the few things that both sides of the spectrum really find to be essential, which is that we don't allow nuclear war to break out without the citizens voicing their opposition. Um, I wanted that to be really a success story, but instead, from what I saw about the rally, it was actually a disaster. Uh, the first issue is that people simply didn't show up. Okay, and that's not that's not something that you can necessarily blame on the people that did show up. Okay, those that found it important enough did go. And for a situation where nuclear war is a possibility, it may not be a close possibility. It may only be something that is talked about in the media, but actually is not really on the table. But it's hard to assess whether we can take that risk, right? If there's actually a threat of nuclear war, of course there should be people who are in the streets protesting, because everybody is at risk of losing their life and their existence thanks to this situation that's going on due to the war in Ukraine. Um, so the first issue, yes, it was attendance. There were very few people attending. And I have a couple ideas about why that happened. But the second issue is, who are the people that attended? And um, it's a little bit of a tough thing to criticize here, because I listen at times to Jimmy Dore, who is one of the big anti war organizers. He was probably the most well followed person who spoke at the rally, apart from maybe Ron Paul or Tulsi Gabbard, because Jimmy Dore has made his brand for the past couple years off of cutting against the grain on the left and saying that he maintains his identity as a left winger while opposing a lot of the authoritarian overreach of the Democratic Party. And yeah, there's a lot of people who were at the rally who have valid things to say. And a lot of these people are people I don't agree with on the normal basis, right? Max Blumenthal or Roger Waters or Anya Parampil. They're people who I've pretty much opposed since I've started to make content and write and all those things. But it is important what they did, because freedom of speech is a beautiful thing, even if the people who are saying those things may have objectionable views or don't really conform to the audience's sensibilities, right? So, when you think of things like shock rock, shock rock was an incredible period in American music when you had people like Marilyn Manson and Guar going out on stage and really trying to offend people. That was an important era, but at a certain time it came and passed. Well, has anti-war rallying come and passed as a real basis for a movement? Um, I hope not, but today it may have happened because if you look at some of the people that did show up, and there were only a few hundred, so um, anybody who's trying to claim that this was, sorry, wrong image. Anyone who's trying to say that, oh, this was actually a great success. Look at how much we were able to, how much attention we were able to garner. Well, some of the people who were featured or who at least showed up are people like, um, well, you can't see it so well in this frame, but uh, apparently Matthew Heimbach and Shandon Simpson, who were two former neo Nazis, so they showed up at the rally, and in reality, they're not actually recanting any of their views. And look, nobody has to recant their views. But this is why I'm saying that it's a problem for the rally. The problem is that even if these people, in this respect, right, of having the U.S. be involved in the war in Ukraine, may have a point, nobody wants to take their Sunday, waste their weekend, drive all the way to Washington, D.C., and be photographed next to a person who is a former neo-Nazi and another guy who apparently is a former terrorist. So Shandon Simpson apparently was an Ohio National Guard serviceman who at one point plotted to murder a number of people in Washington, D.C. As part of his, as part of some sort of terrorist attack in this Telegram group that he was in. And he was arrested because the FBI was watching and they know how to look out for that type of stuff. So that guy showed up. Okay, so a couple guys, a couple neo-Nazis. I mean, who cannot be forgiven for appearing with those people? I get it, right? Still correct to be anti-war. All the respect to the people like Ron Paul or Tulsi Gabbard, Jimmy Dore, Nick Branagh. All respect to those people. No problem for them. Okay, whoever's going to show up is going to show up. They can't control that. But the visibility really did hurt. And I'm sorry to say this because, it's an important message. But what are you going to do? I mean, look at this. Okay, so first listen to the words here. So this is Jimmy Dore.
I'm reminded of the words of Frederick Douglass, who said, "I will join with anyone to do good, but with no one to do bad." If Black Panthers can march hand in hand with the KKK down Las Vegas Boulevard to get welfare payments reinstated, we can join hands with the right wing, the libertarians, the left, the socialists, the communists, everybody to stop a nuclear war. And what's happening right here at this rally is what actually scares the hell out of the establishment. Everybody from the left, everybody from the right, everybody from the middle coming together to realize that we have more in common than divides us, and we share a common enemy. That enemy is the military-industrial complex and the oligarchy, the same oligarchy that did a controlled demolition of our economy, and then they want me to hate my neighbor for the pain I'm feeling because of that, because they wouldn't take a vaccine that didn't work the way they said it did in the first fucking place. Well, I'm not going to hate my neighbor. I'm going to love my neighbor. Because my neighbor is suffering under the same oligarchy that I'm suffering under, and he didn't cause it. The oligarchy did, and they don't want us to join together. And I have one message for the right and the left. If everybody on the right could just realize that not everybody on the left likes Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We just want to end the wars and have health care that doesn't bankrupt us. That would go a long way. And if everybody on the left could just realize that not everybody on the right is a white supremacist Trumper gun nut, they're just fucking gun nuts. I love you. Love each other. Come together. I'll see you at the next anti-war rally. Stay together.
So look, I think that was a great message, and I agree with him, 100% that for a cause this important, you can't try to put a bouncer out in front and say, "Oh, you can't come in. You're not cool enough. You're not nice enough." However, okay, I mean, this. I'm not saying this because I have a solution to this, but this is what I want to call the fruitcake theory, which is that when you try to throw in all of these different strains of the same idea, different types of people that agree on a certain issue, you end up getting a very strange mix, and a lot of people find it distasteful, and it's just the way it is. So next to Jimmy Dore, if you look at the top, it says Helga Zepp LaRouche. To stop World War III, U.S. must join the new paradigm. So basically, those are the people that showed up. The LaRouche organization, which is a cult based on the teachings of a political activist named Lyndon LaRouche. This is his widow Helga, who's a German American citizen. Um, and they've basically dedicated themselves to just promoting LaRouche politics. And whenever I've tried to read anything by the LaRouche organization, all I get is like some sort of mind melt because it doesn't make any sense. It's very heavy in terms of trying to use sophisticated vocabulary in order to sound more complex than it has to be, and really, I would say it's a good encapsulation of this problem with the anti-war movement that they showed up. Why do I say that? Because LaRouche originally, him and his organization, were very far to the left. I would say they were bordering Maoism. Maybe I'm wrong. I could look it up. Let me see here. So um, the problem with all of that is people who have priorities in life, and they need to figure out how to spend their time. They don't want to hang out with a bunch of fruitcakes who arrived and seem to just hand out ridiculous literature and don't really know how to address their everyday issues. And look, this isn't an everyday issue. We're talking about the threat of nuclear war. And a lot of people have sort of allowed themselves to become complacent and simply decided, oh, well, nuclear war, what am I supposed to do about it? I'm just a person. I like to go out, buy stuff at Home Depot, and do some home DIY projects on a Sunday. I'm not going to hang out with this group of, eccentric losers. Now, there were some people there, for example, the Ron Paul movement. Don't have a problem with them. Obviously, I have some differences with them, but probably line up with them on 90 to 95% of the issues. The Free Julian Assange movement, definitely agree with that. But there were a lot of people there that were coming to promote their own heterodox views. Among them were these chemtrails people. So you may not be able to see this, but it says stop weather warfare. So there are people who go to these rallies and they want to piggyback off of the larger movement and say, well, now that you're into this anti-war movement, start to look at, X, what is this other strange, um, tendency that's out there. Okay. Not trying to say whether it's valid or not. I'm just saying that people want to go to an anti-war movement, and people are trying to sidetrack it with all these other problems that have nothing to do with it, and they have to basically shoehorn it in. Um, they found a Proud Boy group over there. Um, so a lot of these people who are showing up, normally would not want to hang out with Proud Boys because they're on the far left. The Proud Boys are, the so-called far right, and therefore you have this whole hodgepodge of different people who are social outcasts in the political sense. And look, I don't believe that social outcasts should be, isolated from the political scene. There, the fact is that you can't have every single view presented on TV. There's only a limited amount of time. On the other hand, I don't want there to be censorship, and a lot of these groups were censored. The anti-war left definitely censored. The populist right for sure censored. I think that them coming together in order to demonstrate against the war is a is a good thing. Apart from the fact that normal people don't want to go. Why don't normal people want to go? Because why would you want to hang out with a bunch of guys dressed like this? Simply, I mean, this is one of the points that Jimmy Dore was trying to make, which is that, um, you know, the whole problem with organizing is that many people on the left were saying, well, we're not going to we're going to organize all the workers and all of the people who have a stake in this cause, except for those smelly Trump voters, or except for these people who happen to be gun nuts or something. And Jimmy Dore has really blown the lid off of that type of thinking by saying, no, you can't really exclude those people. That's the group that's most interested in the cause that you're talking about. So you're just going to have to grin and bear it and decide, oh, I'm going to work with you on these select issues, and on everything else, we can talk about a different time. And I think that that's truly, um, the way the marketplace of ideas is supposed to go. So I don't think that the intent of the rally was wrong. I think some of the people that went there, obviously, I don't like, right? Max Blumenthal, Roger Waters, Anya Parampil, Jackson Hinkle's on it. I don't dislike him. I just think he's incredibly wrong, and that's another issue I wanted to address, which is that some of the people at the rally, they're not anti-war, they're pro-Russia. There's just no other way to put it. They used to work for RT, and RT, whatever they want to say about it being independent and them having their own editorial control, RT is a pro-Russian network, and you're gonna only hear the pro-Russian side there. They're not trying to balance their views. There's no, I mean, look, have I watched RT? Have I looked at RT? Have I found myself entertained on RT from time to time? Sure. And I do I believe that they should be banned? I don't really believe they should be banned. And yet, I think that if you bring a person to a rally, like, um, for example, Chris Hedges, who was on RT for many years, he may be a smart guy. He may have a lot of interesting points to bring up, but him supporting an anti-war rally were concerning Ukraine, given his association with RT in the past and how strenuously he has basically supported a lot of the Russian claims that they had in terms of, this conflict, is not really an anti-war rally. It is, yes, the and as writ large, it is an anti-war rally, but it taints the anti-war rally's message that you have people that are in the rally who are technically advocates for the other side of the war. Okay, if you're against the war, then you're not asking for one side to win in the war. Which, by the way, my opinion has been since the beginning. You can ask anyone that I think Russia will ultimately prevail. Okay, and that's why I think we should stop the war, because instead of allowing them to prevail after destroying as much of Ukraine as they can, causing as much damage and loss of life as possible, they should have found a way to settle the conflict as early as possible, avoid all of that, maybe figure out a way to, um, get Ukraine into a state where they're in the middle, as opposed to being just fought over by the West and by Russia. And obviously, I don't think that there's a solution that totally fits what everybody wants. But look at what's happened. Since the war has continued, Ukraine has been completely and totally devastated by Russian bombardment, by all of this back and forth fighting between the two countries. Um, they took a photo. This journalist, Molly Conger. I don't know if she's a journalist, but she's clearly an activist. She took a photo of Jackson Hinkle, and the guy the guy said, "I stand with Putin." That was Jackson Hinkle's line. Now Jackson Hinkle, I don't think really he doesn't try to hide it. I think he's a pro-Russia person. He supports Russia in the war, and while that's of an opinion you can have, that does not make you anti-war. Okay, if you're anti-war, you're opposing the conflict going on. You're not supporting the other side. That would make you pro-war. You're just on the other side of the war, and that's one of the real reasons that I think this rally was a disaster. So Jimmy Dore mentioned that he is hoping that it's going to be the first of many anti-war rallies. Look, if they do another one, it might be interesting to go. But I'm certainly less enthusiastic after watching what happened today. And look, I think it's actually a terrible situation we're in. People like me, we've opposed the war. We say that it's 100% an unwinnable conflict, and that we have to find a way to get back to negotiating with other countries, even if they're countries that are run by people that are, they're not exactly playing by very fair rules. We have to, um, we have to be more strategic about the way we're going about things, because this war has been draining American resources, even though we don't have troops involved. Thank God. That's about it. Let me know your thoughts. I know many of you have very different opinions from mine. That's okay. Should I have gone to the rally? Was I right to stay home? Was this actually a better rally than the press and some of these Twitter critics are making it out to be? Whatever you think, your view is welcome in my comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please find me on all of the other social media and video hosting sites. And have a great day.